Introduction to the Sky Crossing Guide. Chapter 1. Obtaining Traverse Ability. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. End City. As night falls, the lights in the city gradually light up, dispelling the darkness. A 4-story small building located in the western part of the city, which is a slightly outdated apartment building. In the hallway on the 3rd floor, a slender young man walked through the corridor and finally stopped in room 305. He took out the key from his pocket and skillfully opened the door in front of him, walking in. The room was very dark, and with the help of the faint light outside the hallway, he could vaguely see some things inside. He pressed the switch on the wall, and the room instantly lit up. This room is very small, with a small bed that can only accommodate one person. The head of the bed is close to the window, and next to it is a bathroom surrounded by several wooden boards, which houses a toilet. After entering the room, the young man threw himself onto the bed, turned around and lay down on his back, closed his eyes, feeling this rare moment of relaxation. At this moment, the phone in his pocket suddenly beeped incessantly, interrupting this peaceful moment. The young man, who had finally had a break, heard these sounds and felt a hint of anger in his heart. The young man sat up straight in an instant and quickly took out his phone to see which foolish person was bothering him. If he didn't give a reasonable explanation, let him experience the profoundness of Chinese language and art. Open your phone and take a closer look. It turns out to be a message sent by the work group, which shows the person working overtime tomorrow night, including his name. Fong Ming. MD Wong Pippi, I've been working overtime for 2 consecutive weeks now and I'm still working overtime. Bullying me, the new one. Of course, these words were just a thought in his heart. Fong Ming didn't dare to share them. He was an orphan with no money or power, and with the support of the state, he worked hard to get into an ordinary university. After graduation, he finally found a job, but he didn't want to lose it like this. Although his heart was full of perseverance, he could only yield to the burden of life. Fong Ming quietly looked at the message on his phone, and after a moment, he started typing with his fingers and replied, "Received." After sending the message, he threw his phone directly at the bedside, rubbed his brows with both hands, sighed deeply, and then lay back. Just as he closed his eyes, a voice suddenly came to his mind. Infinite traverse, loading. Loading completed. This unusual sound immediately caught Fong Ming's attention. As he lay down, he immediately sat up, his face both shocked and incredulous. Looking at the meaning of the sentence in his mind, he judged based on years of experience in reading novels that he should have obtained a golden finger, and the name may still be quite impressive. Fong Ming took a deep breath to calm his mood. He was not sure if it was true or if it was caused by his abnormal brain. There was only one way to test whether it was true. Through practice. Fong Ming closed his eyes, and as soon as his mind sank into his mind, he felt a strange thing floating inside. With a movement of his mind, he clicked on that thing and immediately sent a message to him. Infinite crossing. It allows users to traverse the heavens and all realms without any restrictions or obstacles, and can choose any timeline and location for crossing without any consumption or restriction. There's really something in my mind and I can still send messages. After feeling the information, Fong Ming suddenly opened his eyes and his heart was filled with surprise. If this statement is true, then this ability is outrageous. No consumption or restriction means that I can go to any world I want, much better than the protagonist of the infinite scriptures. Moreover, during traversal, users are not subject to any restrictions, and it is highly likely that they will not be affected by ceiling, confinement, or other factors, greatly improving their survival ability. After thinking for a moment, Fong Ming shook his head and dispelled the thoughts in his mind. Whether it was true or false still needed to be tried. No matter how much he thought, it was useless. But the problem arises, which world is better to go to? First of all, safety is essential. There are many safe worlds, but they are different. For example, some worlds are manga style, some are 3D, and some are cartoonish. He doesn't know if going to these worlds will have any impact, so he tries to choose a live-action version as much as possible, which will have the least impact on him. As for the impact of going to a world with different styles, it's not time to figure it out now. The most important thing to figure out now is the authenticity of abilities, and important issues need to be emphasized. In Fong Ming's brief contemplation, a name emerged in his mind. A family with children. A realistic, safe, and non-supernatural world. Family with Children is a sitcom about children, telling various interesting stories that happen between parents and 3 children after 2 divorced families are married. The TV dramas that were often shown in the welfare home when he was a child left a deep impression on him. The live-action version was safe, without any extraordinary power, and all the conditions were met. Through Home with Children. After making up his mind, Fong Ming had a sudden idea and used Infinite Crossing. When his ability was activated, a door suddenly appeared in front of him, emitting blue light. Behind the door was a cement road, with a green belt and several tall buildings next to it. Fong Ming looked at this scene in surprise and was excited in his heart, but he did not recklessly enter the door. Instead, he lowered his head and kept searching the room. Finally, a lively little Chong was found behind the trash can. Ignoring the dirt and chaos, he grabbed him with his bare hands and took out a roll of thin thread from the drawer, tied him up and threw him into the door. Fong Ming carefully examined Xiaoqiang's movements and found that he was still bouncing around there. Seeing the situation as he expected, he pulled Xiaoqiang back and tested the world of comics, novels, 3D, etc. He found that Xiaoqiang had entered those worlds without any abnormalities. After learning about it, Fong Ming was determined and planned to go to Family with Children for an on-site inspection. However, Fong Ming's figure gradually became transparent, and in just the blink of an eye, he completely disappeared into the room. Home with Children world. The weather is sunny, and it's sunny at zhaozhuyuan.com. In a certain community, a skinny teenage boy wearing a red T-shirt and white shorts is walking on the roadside, humming a song with hiccups. At this moment, a thin figure suddenly appeared not far in front of him. What? The boy saw a figure appearing out of thin air in front of him and was suddenly startled. He pointed at Fong Ming in astonishment and trembled, saying, Are you a human or a ghost? I'll tell you, Lu Xing is not afraid of you. If you have any skills, come and let me know. As he spoke, Lu Xing raised his fists and stared closely at Fong Ming, like a boxer preparing to punch on the ring. Unfortunately, his trembling legs betrayed him. Fong Ming looked steadily at Lu Xing, who looked like a little monkey in front of him. He looked around and saw the sun rising high in the sky, surrounded by towering buildings and green vegetation. Everything was so real, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Just now I was inside the house, it was still dark, and in just a blink of an eye, I came outside. The sky had also brightened, and the boy in front of me was not Lu Xing, a character from The Family Has Children. The ability to travel infinitely is truly true. After confirming the authenticity of Infinite Crossing, Fong Ming ignored Lu Xing in front of him and used Infinite Crossing to return to the real world. Lu Xing watched as the person who had just appeared suddenly disappeared from his sight. He rubbed his eyes with both hands, somewhat skeptical of life. After a moment, he ran back in fear, shouting loudly. Ghosts! The real world, this is about to take off. Sitting in the room, Fong Ming's heart skipped a beat, constantly taking deep breaths in an attempt to calm his emotions. Chapter 2. Travel Through My Superman Girlfriend. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In an instant, Fong Ming, who had been excited for a long time, finally calmed down. He picked up his phone and started searching for information online, taking screenshots of all the information he wanted. The first world must be careless, must be safe, and at the same time, must have huge profits. Once obtained, it can immediately soar to the sky. After several hours of searching, Fong Ming made a table of suitable worlds, which is just a preliminary integration. Now, let's take a look at whether there are hidden dangers in these worlds. Some worlds may seem ordinary but actually have hidden mysteries, such as love apartments, which may seem like a funny urban romance film, but as long as you are meticulous enough, you can discover the outrageous plot inside. Mario friends in Guanggu may seem like fantasy friends, but they have the ability to influence reality. They can break the closed doors of reality, as well as cockroaches and mice, aliens from 2.30 Club, Skynet, high-dimensional creatures, and so on. These may only be used for humor in the drama, but when they become reality, they are extremely frightening to contemplate. So in order to avoid the intelligent extinction behavior of being caught on the spot by the hidden boss of that world when crossing the past, Feng Ming also needs to exclude the world with hidden dangers in the table. To understand these, Feng Ming looked at the watch in his hand. Nianli, superpower out of control modern Buddha palm magic teacher my Superman girlfriend Feng Ming touched his chin, frowned, and his mind was rapidly pondering. The world of Nianli is indeed good. The blue liquid carried by meteorites can make you drowsy after drinking it, and if you survive, you can obtain the essential power of Nianli. And there are no side effects, nor are there any masterminds behind it, but we cannot instantly increase our combat power. It takes some time for our abilities to become stronger and useful, but it's not something we've chosen right now. Some abilities in the world of superpower out of control are also psychic abilities, which overlap with those in the world of psychic abilities. And according to online rumors, there is a problem with the power source of the world in superpower out of control. The superpower crystal. The three protagonists have already been parasitized by aliens in the crystal, which is useless. Give up in the world of modern Tathagata divine palm, there are martial arts skills with considerable power, and the pill quickly increases internal power. The protagonist in the drama, as a modern person, still relied on the help of the female lead Princess Yun Luo to quickly reach the top level of the Buddha's palm. The disadvantage is similar to the world of Nianli, which cannot immediately monetize combat power. In the world of the magician, the abilities of this world are outrageous, comparable to those in mythology where words are spoken freely. The abilities include but are not limited to resurrection of the dead, granting autonomy to the dead, and tracing time. Ability usage method. Say instructions and then wave the hand possessed by the ability. Disadvantage. The instructions need to be accurate, otherwise this ability can easily misunderstand the user's instructions. Overall, I can go. This ability is very versatile and has been of great help to me in the world of my Superman girlfriend. The power of Superman comes from a meteorite. Just touch the meteorite with your hand to possess superhuman-like abilities. If your abilities are not as strong as DC Superman, then go to this world. It's safe and can instantly enhance your combat power, providing great security for yourself. After analyzing these worlds, Feng Ming finally determined the world he wanted to go to. My Superman girlfriend. Before going, Feng Ming quickly browsed through the plot of the play to ensure everything was safe and sound. Well, it's okay, there's no problem. If there's any unexpected situation, I'll just live stream and chop it. Forget it, Shaoli, it's safe for you, me, and him. Feng Ming shook his head, put away his phone, and silently recited the passage through the world of my Superman girlfriend, while using infinite passage to start the journey. A door appeared and Feng Ming's figure disappeared into place. My Superman girlfriend world. The sky was pitch black, with only a round moon hanging high in the sky, and sparse starlight adding a touch of artistic conception. Boom boom boom. At this moment, a loud noise came from the sky, like a thunderbolt, and a burning extraterrestrial meteorite flashed past like a stream of light. Under the influence of gravity, the meteorite began to fall towards the ground, and a loud bang came from heaven and earth. The meteorite slammed fiercely into a dense forest, causing the earth to shake and a powerful airflow to blow away in all directions. At the same time, it blew up waves of dust, providing a PM 2.5 package for the surrounding trees. As the dust dissipated, a meteorite with alternating light and darkness, emitting a peculiar glow, was revealed before my eyes, and the meteorite was surrounded by blackened rubble and small flames of fire. Suddenly, the space next to the meteorite began to twist, and a figure emerged from it. Fong Ming looked at the meteorite shining all over in front of him. Although he was prepared in his heart, waves couldn't help but rise. To avoid any other accidents, Fong Ming didn't say a word and directly reached out to touch the meteorite. As soon as his hand touched it, the strange energy inside the meteorite seemed to have found a place to vent, like a burst of floodwater rushing directly into Fong Ming's body. In an instant, the light on the surface of the meteorite gradually weakened, as if there was little strange energy left. The entire meteorite suddenly exploded, and Fong Ming was directly blown away by this shockwave. Fortunately, he was prepared and did not suffer any damage. In places that Fong Ming couldn't see, the strange energy in his body quickly integrated into various parts of his body, and his originally thin and weak body gradually straightened out like inflation. From 1.71 meters tall to 1.85 meters tall, it's even more outrageous than using hormones, and his appearance has instantly transformed from a passerby's armor to a handsome guy visible on the screen. It seems that the whole person has been optimized by the strange energy, and looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com to change towards the most perfect form of genes. The speed of transformation is astonishing, and in just the blink of an eye, Fong Ming transformed from a battle scumbag to a superhero, greatly enhancing his strength. Fong Ming closed his eyes and felt the heat in his eyes. With a constant stream of strength emerging from his body and a superhero stance wrapped around him, he couldn't help but blurt out. So is this how Azu feels? No wonder he's so crazy. If I were you, I would be crazy too. As he spoke, Fong Ming suddenly opened his eyes and two hot lasers shot out of his pupils, causing the air along the way to become distorted. I saw the light shining towards a big tree, and the coiled ancient tree was like paper paste, instantly pierced by the laser, leaving a basketball-sized hole filled with charred charcoal. To be honest, it's just a passerby. This move is comparable to the seductive gaze of the Whispering King. Seeing the scene in front of him, Fong Ming smiled at the corners of his mouth, feeling extremely excited and satisfied with his abilities. Then, with a strong stomp on both feet, dust flew up and leaped into the sky, like a dragon breaking free from its shackles. The world was vast, and where could it not go? Shwa 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 in the air, gusts of fierce wind came towards Fong Ming Road, forming a strong airflow, and the scene below quickly blurred and receded. My ox was almost seen. Faced with this situation, he immediately wrapped his body in Superman's unique Superman stance to prevent tearing his clothes apart too quickly. He didn't want to walk birds in the wild. This place is good, that's it. After flying for a while, Fong Ming searched downwards in the air and landed directly in a city. He had just gained superhuman power and needed to familiarize himself with these abilities and understand their actual output limits. Chapter 3. Familiarity Ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A military base in America. Oops. 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 Just as Fong Ming was conducting supersonic flight, the radar monitoring system in the nearby base detected a high-speed unidentified flying object and triggered an alarm. However, when Fong Ming slowed down and entered the city, the alarm also stopped. "Hey Brown, what's the situation?" A tall blond man turned his head and said to the man not far away. "No, it's probably some bird hunting. You know, this kind of situation has happened before." The man named Brown shrugged and looked indifferent. The situation on this side of the base is completely unknown, of course, even if he knows, he won't react much. Anyway, he can leave here at any time. What Fong Ming needs to do now is to test the limits of this superhuman power, but not to find a gym to test it. The fitness equipment there does not meet his testing requirements. His purpose is to use trucks in this city, and those guys are the ones for testing. Looking down at the brightly lit city below, Fang Ming easily found a large truck with his supervision and immediately fell straight towards it. Oh my goodness, Superman. What the fuck? Holy crap. I always thought the tight-fitting clown wearing underwear only existed in comics, but I didn't expect reality to be real. Although there was little movement regarding Fang Ming's whereabouts, some sharp-eyed citizens still noticed him and stared at him in amazement. Fang Ming was floating in mid-air a few meters above the ground, watching as more and more people gathered around him, forming a circle below him, and couldn't help but furrow his brows. He needs to test his strength later. There must be a lot of commotion, and it would be bad if there were any casualties. He is just an ordinary person who has just become Superman, and he still can't accept the idea of killing someone for no reason, even if they are just people who have nothing to do with him. Thinking of this, Fang Ming had no other good way but to use force to ask them to leave. I saw the energy slowly flowing in my body, being gathered into my eyes. Then my eyes gradually turned red, and the intense heat twisted the air around my eyes, emitting a dangerous aura. Oh, cool. This is great, mother. I've seen super heat rays. My friends, have you seen Superman? Superman in reality, I guarantee in the name of God, this is not a special effect, but a real existence. Why is Superman an Asian? No, you stupid idiot. How could Superman be a yellow-skinned monkey? He just sunbathed and yellowed his skin. I could feel the aura of America emanating from him. The people on the ground were instantly shocked upon seeing this scene, without any sense of crisis. Some even took out their phones to shoot videos, while others questioned whether Superman had yellow skin and engaged in arguments, but none of them hindered their excitement. Fang Ming saw them gathered around him, and the laser rays in his eyes poured out, hitting the container of the large truck on the ground. Bang! In front of this powerful radiation, the container, like paper, was instantly shot through, leaving a basketball-sized hole that was burned red. This was not enough. Fang Ming flew towards the front of the truck again, clenched his fists, and smashed heavily, only hearing a loud noise coming out. The tremendous force overwhelmed all parts of the front of the car, causing it to be flattened in an instant and the entire front of the car to be scrapped. When everyone saw his action, they were suddenly startled and retreated one after another. Sieg Heil. At this moment, Fang Ming suddenly turned his head to face them, stood straight, placed his left hand on his abdomen, and tilted his right hand 45 degrees upwards, making a standard Nakui military salute and shouting loudly. At the same time, there was a red light in his eyes, a look of malice, as if he was ready to take action against them at any moment. Ah! Adolf! Help! The Third World War is coming. Run quickly, Nazi has been resurrected. Finally, some people couldn't hold on anymore, and a scream came from somewhere. Suddenly, everyone scattered and fled, creating a chaotic scene. Fang Ming watched as everyone moved away from him, but he breathed a sigh of relief and secretly said, "These people have finally dispersed." Boom! Seeing no one around, Fang Ming flew to the side of the truck and kicked it hard. With this force, the truck instantly sank in and then flew backwards, flying over 20 meters before landing. I feel pretty good. After speaking, he started to fight against other cars again. Finally, after causing dozens of scrapped cars for the city, Fang Ming accurately understood the power limit of Superman. Taking him as an example, according to the physical formula F equals ma, when the velocity was 0, the combined external force acting on the object when punching in place was about 196,000 N to 294,000 N. Converted to mass units, it is approximately 20 to 30 tons. When the acceleration is not 0, the magnitude of the force is proportional to the acceleration. Why he was able to obtain this data can be attributed to his superbrain, which can even recall the knowledge he has learned before and flexibly apply it. He finally understood the feeling of being a top student, and the feeling of possessing knowledge was really satisfying. As for the hardness limit of his body, he doesn't want to test it anymore. After all, it's a bit dangerous. As can be seen from the drama, the front-facing anti-robber rifle is unscathed. Just have this concept. It is very foolish to be shot just because of a test, and with his caution, it is impossible for him to be in such an environment, even if he can withstand the damage of conventional firearms. Clark dared to use his 2 pectoral muscles to resist the 3600 turn south Wugatlan Bodhisattva, but Fong Ming had nothing to say and could only praise him with a thumbs up. As for himself, I'm sorry, he's hesitant and only respects his inner choices. After completing the strength limit test, Fong Ming was ready to run. Through his super hearing, he had already sensed the sound of a police siren approaching from afar. He doesn't slip now and will be beaten soon. He doesn't want to try the dark nemesis of American living. I saw Fong Ming soaring into the sky like a cannon, sinking into the dark night sky and disappearing without a trace. In the air, Fong Ming flew at a speed that surpassed sound, and this was the final test. Endurance limit. After leaving the city, Fong Ming flew into the sea and planned to test the endurance limit in the sea to prevent being detected. He dared not underestimate the 3 major hooligans in this world. He doesn't know if hiding in the sea is useful, but be careful and there are no accidents. For days later, while flying in the high-intensity sea, Fong Ming was finally exhausted. He knew he had reached his endurance limit and immediately returned to reality. He was really exhausted now. The real world, the harvest is remarkable. Fong Ming, who had just returned to reality, breathed a sigh of relief and lay in bed, relaxing his tense body, closing his eyes to reflect on the gains made this time. Although the entire journey was mundane, this was what he wanted. Being plain and indifferent was the truth. When he was weak, going out in the waves, he didn't even know how to die. Now with Superman's strength as a guarantee, he has finally shed his title of weak chicken, and his future journey through time will be even better. Thinking about it, he couldn't help but clench his fist and feel the powerful power contained within it. The sky is high, allowing birds to fly, the sea is wide, allowing fish to leap. Now he needs to summarize his own abilities in order to have a comprehensive understanding of his abilities. So, in order to have a more accurate understanding of his abilities and items in the future, Fong Ming built his own personal panel based on the powerful memory of the super brain. The construction principle is very simple, just make a table in your brain, and then use your super brain to memorize it. When you need to view and update it, you can flip it over and see it. It can be said that Fong Ming's product must be a masterpiece, with a very exquisite design that drops ginkgo biloba. Chapter 4. Magician. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The construction process was very fast, and it was done in no time. Fong Ming had a thought and the artificial personal panel appeared in his mind. Name. Fong Ming Physical Resistance. Front hard resistance rifle without damage, no actual testing, only for reference, power. 20 to 30 tons, actual output in place, speed. Supersonic level movement speed endurance. Can sustain high-intensity combat for 4 days, without sunlight exposure, personal abilities. Superhuman power, low, super brain, super perception, super power, super speed, super self-healing, supervision, flight, laser eye, etc. Owning items. None. Well, he didn't fill in infinite crossing, he's afraid that someone can read the memory, which would be troublesome. The personal panel is also somewhat rudimentary, but at least it was built independently. The more he looked at it, the more satisfied he became, and he didn't mind it at all. After enjoying himself for a while, Fong Ming withdrew his thoughts. The power of Superman has been obtained, now it's time to go to the world of magician and use false words to speak freely. This ability is extremely outrageous and can do almost anything, depending on the actual situation. The only limitation is to speak accurately, otherwise it is easy to cause accidents. It's also easy to take, without any messy tests, as long as the timing is right. Oh. This movie is quite interesting, with a strong sense of why, but unfortunately the protagonist doesn't know how to use it. He has watched this movie, although it was watched a long time ago, the super brain can still easily recall it. Magician mainly tells the story of Neil, a high school teacher who is unable to work or love. One day, he was inadvertently selected by aliens to grant him superpowers. Once he was surprised to find that he could solve a problem with just a wave of his hand and become omnipotent, thus opening up a story of an ordinary person. The plot is very simple, and it is worth noting that the aliens gave Neil this superpower during a certain period of time. As long as you seize the opportunity, you can get it, and then you can just leave and return to reality. The corner of Fong Ming's mouth couldn't help but rise slightly as he spoke freely. What a great ability, even if it was much weaker than the real one, it didn't hinder its omnipotence. With this ability, in the future, when they go to the Western world, they can pretend to be God and deceive them. Lamb of the Lord, may the holy light bless you, Amen. What a touching remark. In an instant, an infinite force surged out of nowhere in Fong Ming's body, dispelling his tiredness for the past 4 days. He jumped out of bed like he had been beaten with chicken blood. Another day full of vitality. After speaking, Fong Ming disappeared and the room was once again immersed in the silent darkness. Magician world, although I have traveled through it once, it still makes me very excited. Fong Ming stood on the roadside at the corner, looking at the densely packed houses around him, with a European and American style of painting. At this moment, a middle-aged man riding a bicycle drove ahead. The facial features are 3-dimensional, with one pair of eyes and one nose, and the most clever feature below is a mouth, typical of European and American faces. That familiar appearance made Fong Ming immediately recognize him as the protagonist of this film. Neil. Lucky enough, I met the protagonist right away. Fong Ming felt a little pleased and then crossed his hands to embrace his chest. Wait for him to fall, then he approached and pretended to be a good person to help Neil, and finally obtained his superpower. On the road, a blue car came quickly from behind Neil, easily overtaking him. When it turned the corner, it turned directly, ignoring Neil's cyclist. Oh my! Neil saw a car approaching through the afterglow and was startled. He disrupted his balance and accidentally fell to the ground, making a painful scream. The person next to him was preparing early in the morning and was waiting for Neil to fall. So, at the moment when he was about to fall, he seized the opportunity to directly step forward and support him, then grabbed his right hand and showed concern. "Sir, are you okay?" At this moment in outer space, a blue ray passed through the clouds and headed straight towards Fong Ming's right hand, waiting until all the light was absorbed by Fong Ming. Fong Ming didn't feel much either. If he hadn't seen the light shining into his right hand with his own eyes, he would have thought the target had failed this time, but fortunately everything went smoothly. The source of ability is released from the earth. At the moment of obtaining the superpower, Fong Ming quickly blurted out and waved his right hand. After Fong Ming said this, a blue light flashed through his right hand. "This planet is not fun, let's find something more interesting." This is what the red unicorn lobster monster said. Although I really don't want to agree with what you said, I have to say that this is indeed a good idea. The flat-headed bird-billed monster shrugged its shoulders and reluctantly agreed to the crayfish monster's shallow high opinion. "Okay, I think so too." "I agree." "Okay, that's settled then. Let's go." Fong Ming on Earth used his supervision to see the giant tentacle spaceship in the sky disappear with a swoop, and his heart also breathed a sigh of relief. If he takes away his superpowers, the biggest hidden danger must also be solved. If he just leaves like this, the Earth in this world is estimated to be 100% GG. Now that the problem is solved, he can leave with peace of mind. Thinking of this, he felt like there was still one more thing to do. Looking at Neil touching his buttocks in front of him, Fong Ming pondered for a moment and decided to compensate him, so he sent out a blessing. "I hope your life is better, sir." Speaking, he waved his hand and a blue light flashed through. Oh, thank you. You're much better than the jerk driving just now. After speaking to Neil, Fong Ming said goodbye to him and disappeared from the corner. The real-world Fong Ming stood in the room, gazing at the chaotic environment, feeling overjoyed. His newly acquired superpower immediately came into play. My room immediately became clean and tidy. Looking for Shuyuan? www.zhaoshuyuan.com, wave your hand, blue light flashes. The items in the room were instantly given a brief life, and the brooms and garbage shovels in the corner bounced and swept the garbage that came running towards them, and then threw them into the trash cans that followed. Unwashed clothes and socks jump into the washing machine to take a shower. After washing and wring them dry, they put on a hanger and hang them on the balcony. In no time, the originally dirty and messy room became clean and tidy, while items such as brooms returned to their original positions and became ordinary tools again. Fong Ming nodded in satisfaction, still feeling comfortable in his own home. As the saying goes, a golden and silver nest is better than his own dog's nest. That's weird. If TMD had money, he would still live in this hanging place. I used to be an ordinary boy with no skills, so living here is nothing. Now that he has superpowers, if he still lives here, wouldn't his superpowers be in vain? I've decided to move tomorrow. Fong Ming's eyes were bright and focused, and he didn't want to stay here anymore. As an unnamed Superman, this place really doesn't fit his identity and status. After speaking, Fong Ming glanced at the clock of the neighboring house. Well, it's still more than an hour away from midnight, so let's go through the journey again. Anyway, it's not short of time, so come back and sleep. Which world is better to go to? Super Brain, use your invincible talent and amazing intelligence to come up with a solution. Fong Ming directly instructed the supercomputer like Super Brain to automatically screen the target world. And the Super Brain did not tarnish its reputation. In just 0.00001 seconds, it found a world that satisfied Fong Ming. The protagonist was invincible by eating sweet potatoes. I am the Great Mage. Chapter 5. I am the Great Mage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I Am the Great Mage is a novel from ancient times in the online literature world, and its writing style is not very impressive from the perspective of today. But at that time, he watched it with great interest. The plot was quite hard, and the YY content was quite high, making him a little Liu Bei. This is not surprising. At that time, the atmosphere in the online literary world was like this, and even Wei Sangu, who is now pure and pure, was a peerless expert in this field at that time. Get back to the main topic. This book mainly tells the story of the protagonist crossing the magical world of the Holy Demon Continent and having eaten many sweet potatoes before. Sweet potatoes are actually the most precious treasure in the Holy Demon Continent, and as long as you eat a little, you can have great magic. So at the moment of crossing to the Holy Demon Continent, the protagonist immediately gained infinite magic, enough to rival the gods. The development of the plot is the story of the top strong being. Shocked, the beautiful woman throwing herself in her arms, and marrying by Fume to reach the pinnacle of human life. The most interesting setting in this world is that eating sweet potatoes can have infinite magic. Although this infinite is unlikely, it can be called infinite magic, and the amount is definitely amazing. Although he can possess almost infinite magic, which can be said to be comparable to God, he can only say that he thinks too much about wanting to compete with God solely based on magic. Although unable to compete with the gods, it can be seen from the book that the protagonist briefly learned the magic of the Holy Demon Continent. With the infinite magic in his body, he can fight against two great wizards admired by everyone in the Holy Demon Continent, causing great damage to the southern part of the most dense, Tao forest, in the Holy Demon Continent, which cannot be restored after 30 years. Its power can be imagined. If you want to know the attack range of the protagonist, you can compare it with Blue Star and Holy Magic Continent. After all, as a transcendent world, the area of Holy Magic Continent cannot be smaller than that of Blue Star in the technological world. So, when comparing the Holy Demon continent with the Blue Star, the Forest of Waves is equivalent to the Amazon rainforest. The area of the Amazon rainforest is about 7 million square kilometers, and the three-person battle can cause significant damage to the southern part of the Forest of Waves, with the battle affecting an area of 3.5 million square kilometers. Considering that the protagonist has unlimited magic, the blue bars are endless, and the ultimate moves are infinite, so the affected area accounts for half of the total, which is 1.75 million square kilometers. This is very astonishing data. It should be noted that the surface area of Blue Star is only 510 million square kilometers, and the protagonist's strike range actually reaches 291% of the Blue Star's surface area. If given some time, it is estimated that he can achieve the achievement of single-person extinction of all humanity, and properly eliminate national-level and pseudo-continental level powerhouses. Sigh, it's so terrifying. Fong Ming shook his head and said, I don't want to do that much anymore. Let's eat sweet potatoes and go to I Am the Great Mage first. Before eating, he needs to know how many sweet potatoes the protagonist of I Am the Great Mage has eaten in total, and having some data is better than eating randomly. Just now, he learned from online sources that a normal person's daily consumption of sweet potatoes should not exceed 500 grams, otherwise it is likely to cause physical discomfort. Using this data as a parameter, assuming that the protagonist of the Great Mage has a natural talent for eating sweet potatoes, averaging 500 grams per day. If he persists in eating sweet potatoes for 20 consecutive years, he will eventually be able to eat 3.65 tons of sweet potatoes. With accurate data, it will be much easier to handle. A box of sweet potatoes weighing 10 pounds appeared in front of me. After speaking, Fong Ming habitually waved his hand, while a flash of blue light flashed. In an instant, a box of sweet potatoes appeared on the empty floor. The data from 3.65 tons to sweet potatoes may seem small, but in reality, 3.65 tons of sweet potatoes are more than enough to fill his room. There is no other choice but to eat 10 pounds of sweet potatoes. Fong Ming stepped forward to open the box, inside which were neatly arranged fist-sized sweet potatoes, clean and full. He picked up one casually, looked at the fist-sized sweet potato, and compared his mouth. Nima, when will this be eaten? There are still over 700 boxes left behind. Fong Ming was so shocked that he shuddered. Is this the disparity between ideals and reality? This is too hurtful, isn't it? Fortunately, he has another way, which is to squeeze the sweet potatoes into sweet potato juice and drink it directly, which will be very efficient, but he didn't know if he could still obtain the magic of the Dharma God level in this way. Don't drink 3.65 tons of sweet potato juice and end up in the world of I Am the Great Mage without obtaining the magic of the Dharma God. In the end, we still have to eat a few tons of sweet potatoes. Isn't this pure and clever behavior? It's better for Avada to eat sweet potatoes honestly. There's no other way, just speak your mind and unleash your divine power. Every sweet potato that comes into my stomach will be instantly digested. Speaking, waving, flashing blue light, 3 waves in a row, finishing work. Fong Ming, who had strengthened himself, crushed the sweet potato in his hand and stuffed it into his mouth. The sweet potato entered his stomach through his esophagus and was instantly digested. Fong Ming could clearly feel a slight feeling of fullness in his stomach, which was probably equivalent to a cold hair on a whale's body. If a whale doesn't have cold fur on its body, let it be. It seems that speaking casually still has an outstanding effect, and it doesn't disappoint its reputation. Fong Ming couldn't help but sigh, and at the same time, his movements didn't slow down, constantly stuffing sweet potatoes into his mouth. At superhuman hand speed, the sweet potatoes in the box were completely eaten in just a few seconds. The box in front of me can produce 3.65 tons of sweet potatoes. Quickly wave your hand and a flash of blue light. Sweet potatoes popped out of the originally empty box and kept spitting out from inside. In just a few seconds, the sweet potatoes in place were piled up into a small mound, and Fong Ming also reached out his merciless iron hand, transforming into an invincible rice bucket, quickly stuffing sweet potatoes into his mouth, thinking he was a reincarnated starving ghost. Half an hour later, no more sweet potatoes appeared in the box, while Fong Ming let out a deep hiccup and sat on the ground, eating the last sweet potato. MD, if I eat sweet potatoes again in the future, I'll be a dog, Fong Ming snorted coldly and patted the ground with his right hand. Puff. Suddenly, Fong Ming turned into a yellow dog, and a bewildered expression appeared on its face. It was hard to believe how a dog could have such a personified expression. Damn it. Forget not to speak recklessly and wave your hand. Wong Wong. Change back to the original state, wave the dog's paw. Puff. Fong Ming appeared in place again, with a hint of helplessness on his face. This ability is really beyond defense, we need to quickly turn it into our own. Rubbing the stomach that hasn't changed much, even Superman's stomach can't be made like this. More than 3 tons of food, whether it's just words or words, enhances the digestive ability of the stomach. Just digestive problems are likely to take more time. Zhaoshuyuan.com, I hope the magic at the level of the Dharma God doesn't disappoint me, otherwise I will suffer for nothing. Fong Ming murmured to himself. I am the great mage world holy demon continent on the vast and boundless plain, the scent of grass is particularly strong, and a gust of wind fills the air with a fresh breath. This scent makes people feel comfortable, as if they can forget all their troubles. Fong Ming stepped on the soft grass and stretched lazily, feeling the immense magic inside his heart. It's really strong, but unfortunately I don't know magic yet. The magic here can't be used in other worlds, but fortunately, magic can be used. Fong Ming felt slightly regretful, but the almost infinite magic also brought him some comfort, and this wave was not at a disadvantage. The magic on the Holy Demon Continent can be roughly divided into elemental magic that controls the 5 elements of earth, water, wind, fire, and thunder, summoning magic for warcraft, divine light magic and terrifying dark magic, as well as elf magic unique to the fairy race and dragon language magic unique to the dragon race. Elemental magic is the use of internal magic to manipulate the 5 magic elements of earth, water, wind, fire, and thunder that exist in the world, making them appear in various forms. This is also the embryonic form of magic in this world. If other worlds do not have these elements, they cannot use the magic of this world. Summoning magic and holy light magic require permission from local deities to be used. The prefix for magic spells is, God of Contract, use your divine power to make the contract effective. It's not just a single word. The final elf magic and dragon language magic, not to mention, are all local specialties that he cannot learn. He has already mastered almost all the benefits of this world. Chapter 6. Daily, Major Changes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The real world. As soon as Fong Ming returned from the world of, I am a great mage, he lay down in bed and traveled through 4 different worlds in a row. He felt a little mentally fatigued. The first thing he did when he returned now was to sleep, and tomorrow's things will be discussed tomorrow. The next day, Fong Ming simply washed up and prepared to go downstairs for breakfast. Although he had a superhuman body that could replenish his energy by shining on the sun, he didn't have to eat every day like an ordinary person, but he still didn't want to deprive him of this right to be a human. As soon as he came downstairs, Fong Ming took a step towards the nearby noodle shop, and the pedestrians on the road occasionally focused on him. Fong Ming didn't find it strange. After all, with the strengthening of superhuman power, not only did his body's various attributes greatly improve, but also his overall appearance was greatly optimized. In this world where values follow facial features, it's easy to attract beautiful girls and have a friendly race on horseback that night. But unfortunately, he has no sexual interest in these women now. After quickly resolving breakfast, I went to discuss check out with the landlord, and then called Wang Poppy to resign. After that, I hung up the phone directly. The matter was resolved quickly, and Fong Ming simply packed his things and took a car to the countryside. He has a lot of physical abilities now, and his application of them is still at a relatively shallow level, so he needs to find a place to learn about these abilities well and also practice them. The movement and stillness are not small, just right in the countryside. As soon as he got off the car, Fong Ming headed straight into the deep mountains, scanning every piece of land here with his supervision, not even leaving the underground. After scanning and ensuring that there were no people or underground bases in the mountains, Fong Ming felt relieved and flew towards the depths. When he reached a similar spot, he waved his hand. Take me as the center and draw a 10-mile radius as the boundary. As soon as any animal approaches, it will automatically move away from this area, and no movement within the boundary will be transmitted to outside. After speaking, a blue light flashed, with Fong Ming as the center. A 10-mile radius was shrouded in an invisible wave, and all animals near the boundary moved away from this place on their own. Fong Ming was floating in the air and opened his personal panel to update the version of the content. Name: Fong Ming. Physical resistance: front hard resistance rifle without damage, no actual testing, only for reference. Power: 20 to 30 tons, actual output in place. Speed: supersonic level movement speed. Endurance: infinite, low. Level, personal abilities: superhuman power, Junior, speak your own words, Junior, infinite magic, Junior, owning items. None. The content of personal ability updates has added speak freely, low. Level, and infinite magic, low. Level. The battery life has also changed from 4 days to infinite, low level, due to the reasons of infinite magic, low level, and flexible speech, low level. One provides energy, while the other converts energy into stamina, and can even achieve the effect of immortality and rebirth through dripping blood according to this method. Fong Ming Jing calmed down and began to use his super brain to think about the usage of these 3 abilities, developing new abilities. The super brain is very powerful and can perfectly control the body, which also provides great help for Fong Ming in developing new abilities. After a period of seclusion and hard work, Fong Ming, with his amazing talent as a super brain, finally eliminated the disadvantage of speaking casually, low. Level, requiring a wave of hand to use his ability, allowing him to better coordinate with the other 2 abilities, and developed the following new abilities. Life recovery principle: the conversion between the infinite magic provided by infinite magic, low. Level, and the ability to speak freely, low. Level. Effect: provide a continuous stream of physical strength. When the body is injured, it can automatically use its ability to heal the body without thinking through the brain, which can be used by others. The hand of a mage principle: infinite magic, low. Level, provides unlimited magic combined with billions of bits of supercomputing power from the superbrain. Effect: it can display human hands composed of magic, interfering with the material and energy of reality. The more magic output and brain computing power, the more hands the mage has, and the more material and energy they interfere with reality. Scattering beings into soldiers principle: reassembling matter and energy in a way that follows, low. Level, activate the mind, empower dead or living creatures with infinite magic, low. Level, and a little bit of computing power from the superbrain. Effect: recombine the surrounding material and energy, giving them a humanoid or other powering structure, endowing them with spirituality, activating them, and wearing hard armor and weapons made of magic, as well as an indestructible body, possessing independent thinking ability and loyal qualities. Spirit root / fighting spirit seed / spirit power seed principle: by using the technique of speaking and following, a large amount of magic can be compressed into a tiny, extremely hard ball, with a hollow interior. Under the action of speaking and following, it can attach to a person, allowing the parasite to have the qualification to use magic. As a cultivation action set by speaking and following, such as meditation, a strand of magic can be extracted from the ball and stored in the hollow interior of the ball. When magic is needed, this strand of magic can be used. Effect: Gives the victim the ability to use mana/fighting spirit/magic. The above abilities are his research achievements during this period. Of course, there are also some small techniques derived from these 4 abilities, which will not be explained in detail. With the protection of these abilities, he was finally able to slow down and watch the wonders of various worlds. During this time, he had an infinite journey in his mind, thinking about which world to go to. How to quickly become stronger. The whole person was stunned. As soon as he returned from one world, he immediately set off for another world without stopping, as if something was chasing him. It's really wrong to think about it now. Hee. Fong Ming shook his head gently and gave a self-deprecating smile. It is easy to become stronger, but traveling through the heavens cannot be simply about increasing strength, and forgetting the wonderful stories and desirable characters of the heavens themselves. To understand all of this, Fong Ming casually dispersed the barrier and restored the forest that had been damaged due to the experiment during this period to its original state. After completing these tasks, he left here. After returning to the city, Fong Ming planned to open a bookstore and set himself a home here, which also gave him an idea of the world. If he felt bored in the future, he would come back and take a look. When he was in the forest, he had already observed the whole world and found that it was just an ordinary world without any extraordinary power. After knowing the cards of each country, he knew that he was invincible. But he did not have the idea of ruling the world in his heart. In a short period of time, he transformed from an ordinary person to someone who could change the world. He only felt how lonely invincibility was in his heart. This world is his backyard, a place where he can come back and rest at any time. He doesn't want to give up here. After all, it is also the place where he was born, and there is a little but not much memory left here. Fong Ming casually found a gold shop with a box and walked in. He came to sell gold to make money, and the gold in the box was created by him using words and methods. After coming out, the box in his hand was missing, but there was an extra 8 million in the card, which was reasonable in front of his words. Chapter 7. Supplementary Unknown Information, Major Revision. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the charm of money, Fong Ming easily took down a 2-story house. The original owner of the house was a rice noodles buyer. It was said that it was still an old shop for 100 years, but later it was poorly managed. Finally, he bought it and changed its name to a bookstore. In order to avoid being disturbed by others and causing damage to the house, Fong Ming has added some rules to this house. 1. This house is very hard and can self-repair when damaged. 2. The existence of a house will be forgotten by ordinary people, and they will subconsciously ignore it when passing by. 3. The hole is hidden in the sky and cannot be touched, while what is on the ground is only a virtual projection. The remaining rules need to be added. After adding a buff to the house, Fong Ming took a step inside and found it very clean. The things that were originally placed here had already been moved away by the original owner, making it seem very spacious inside. The area of the first floor is not large or small, just enough to place a few rows of bookshelves, adding knowledge atmosphere to the house, and also adding something to decorate the environment here. With this in mind, Fong Ming quickly began to decorate, using his ability to speak freely and create several rows of bookshelves out of thin air, and arranged them well. He also made some potted plants and prepared cleaning tools. After preparing all of these, Fong Ming waved his hand, giving them the ability to think and move, and adding loyal rules to them. Just as they have acquired their intelligence, they appear very confused, but in their consciousness, there is a recognition that the person in front of them is their master. After a brief moment of confusion, they suddenly understood the reason why their master created them and said in unison, "Great Master, we will fulfill our duties and never let you down." "Well, you guys work hard," Fong Ming nodded, looking satisfied. After speaking, Fong Ming walked up to the second floor, which only had 2 rooms. Considering that he lived alone, he directly dismantled the walls of the isolation room and merged the 2 rooms into one. From now on, the second floor will be his room. Afterwards, Fong Ming casually made a cloud-like bed, which was not only very soft but also able to float in the air. Under such conditions, no one could say no to this bed. Ah! It's comfortable. Fong Ming lay on the cloud bed, with an expression of enjoyment on his face. At the same time, he took out his phone and began browsing through some world plots he had never seen before, enriching his knowledge, so as not to discover an unimaginable and powerful person suddenly jumping out of an ordinary world and directly killing himself. 30 minutes later, Fong Mingken finished watching a drama, which he was browsing at 4 times the speed. Fong Ming glanced at his neighbor's clock for 30.2 minutes, then froze in place, feeling like a big idiot. But fortunately, the super brain was very intelligent and quickly came up with a solution for him. Fong Ming held his phone, pondered for a moment, sorted out what he wanted to say in his heart, and slowly revealed his thoughts after confirming. The phone in my hand can differentiate into 3,000 identical phones. With a sudden thought, the phone in his hand trembled, and one phone after another fell off the original phone, only briefly touching Fong Ming's ankle. With a big wave of his hand, Fong Ming immediately flew 3,000 mobile phones onto the wall, one by one, ensuring that the space was fully utilized. Fong Ming saw that only 3,000 mobile phones had covered 2.5 walls, causing the phones to divide into tens of thousands, and finally allowing the phones to take up all the space in the room. At first glance, the originally empty room was filled with mobile phones one after another. On the walls and half-empty ground, all that came into view were densely packed mobile phones. People with dense phobia were likely to faint on the spot. Then, simultaneously opening tens of thousands of mobile phones, we began to make up lessons on the plot of the blank world. The images on all my phones in my room can be reflected into my eyes through light refraction. As soon as the words fell, countless images on the phone caught Fong Ming's eye. At this moment, the super brain began to operate frantically, quickly classifying and processing a large amount of incoming external information. Fong Ming first searched for information related to film and television, as many easy-to-find items usually come from here. In just an instant, countless things, either heard or seen, or never heard or seen, came to mind one after another. I want everything. 7 orifices bleeding is bleeding from the 7 orifices, and death is death. These are completely different things. Little Chianya. Hee, fairy, give me a hard time. Wakanda is finished. What is your ability? Money ability. Peter, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. There's so much road ahead. Dry throat. I want to become the man of the Pirate King. No one stood in the sky from the beginning, whether it was you or me, even God, but the empty window period of the heavenly throne is coming to an end. From now on, let me stand at the top. Mouth, 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 mouth. Brother Ao, when you turn around, you're on the right side. My combat power is at most 6,000, his is at least over 10,000. Ellie. Dad, don't, I know I was wrong. Seize the future in an instant. Humph. A small skill like carving insects, how dare you teach your family how to wield an axe? A mighty dragon. Don't fight anymore. 2nd Battalion Commander. Pull out my Italian cannon. Ah, looking for a woman from the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com, you have successfully caught my attention. What you lost was just one leg, what she lost was love. 9 days thunder double kicks. The world is once again filthy. But you are different. You are both light and human. Gaia. Give me Kong Kong. No need, Jiagu, Sarlang. Sarlang. I smile at the sky with a horizontal knife, leaving my liver and gallbladder in the Kunlun Mountains. A song. Oh my. A song. Oh my. Humph, Guan read spring and autumn. My crush is a legendary hero. One day, he will step on the colorful clouds to marry me. I guessed the beginning, but I can't guess the ending. Without that sword, I could still annihilate the enemy. You can't jump, you're not qualified now. Brother Xiaoyao. I am. Iron Man Pop. I bet there are. No bullets in your gun. The frog of the mind keeps touching your stomach. Take the stairs. Magic pupils open, stay still like a mountain and enter the magical world, magical eye aurora. Dang, 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 dang dang, dang dang. 6 hours later Fong Mingchang took a deep breath and finally finished watching. In order to avoid any omissions, he couldn't skip any of these scenes and forced himself to finish them. In such a short period of time, he absorbed a large amount of information in one go. Even if he had a super brain, his mind couldn't help feeling a bit bloated. Chapter 8. Journey Through Kung Fu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After resting for a while, Fong Ming's problem of bloating finally eased, and then he began to supplement his knowledge in the novel. 30 years in the East and 30 years in the West, do not deceive young people into poverty. Shocking the past and reflecting on the present, I am afraid of carrying the heavenly abyss. I need to rely on the primitive imperial city. How can I be peaceful? Enemy to the world. One world, two brothers. The taste of a witch is really good. Not to become an immortal, just to wait for you to come back in this mortal world. The world is gentle, I love this kind of world, but the world doesn't like me. Little monster. Fool, there's no such thing as an ice master. I've always been in Huan. Brother Han, can't ordinary people really cultivate immortality? Holding the sun, moon, and stars, there is no one like me in the world. Duke Wei, I'm Su Qianan. I won't be an official anymore. I'll say it one last time, within the territory of Xia, the gods are prohibited. Nanner, as a teacher, take a look at this peaceful and prosperous era. Resurrect, my beloved. I am invincible on earth, I will not fight against heaven or anyone else. If the sky oppresses me, split open that day. If the earth imprisons me, trample on that ground. I wait for myself to be free, who dares to stand high? I, Chen Beixian, have acted all my life, so why explain to you? Where is your home? Point in the direction, I'll just strike a sword. I am the Heavenly Emperor, responsible for suppressing and killing all enemies in the world. Don't move, I'll take you to kill. Kid, keep an eye on it. This sword will be very handsome. It's just a bit of wind and frost. When yin and yang are in chaos, stain the blue sky with my demonic blood. The collapse of the heavenly way has left Chen Pinyin with only one sword, which can move mountains, cut off rivers, pour the sea, subdue demons, restrain demons, decree gods, pluck stars, destroy cities, and open up the heavens. Fight 3,000 emperors with one hand alone, and push 13 continents horizontally with 2 palms. Muaqian kowtowed for 3,000 years, looking back on the mortal world and not becoming an immortal. A grain of dust can fill the sea, a blade of grass can cut through the sun, moon, and stars, and in a blink of an eye, the world will turn upside down. I am destined to be invincible in this world, this is my belief. In the future, I will become a variable, I will remain unchanged for eternity and never perish. In my life, I have never asked for the past or the next life, but have lived a grand and vigorous life, indulging in both kindness and enmity, defeating all the heroes of various ethnic groups, and laughing proudly at the 6 gods and demons. The universe is a dark forest, and every civilization is a hunter with a gun, sneaking through the forest like a ghost, gently pulling away the branches blocking the way, striving not to let footsteps make any sound, even breathing cautiously. I'm here, always here. The reception process for this novel was quite fast, and it took less than 2 hours to finish reading. After all, unlike images that cannot miss a second, as long as the hand speed is fast enough, with the super visual reception speed, you can still finish watching quickly. Fong Ming rubbed his eyebrows, let go of his thoughts, and fell asleep, while the information in his mind was processed by the super brain. In the evening, Fong Ming opened his eyes, stretched lazily, and searched through his memory, discovering that the super brain had already processed all the information. Fong Ming secretly gave a thumbs up to the super brain in his heart. Now it's time to think about where to go. I saw that Fong Ming temporarily added a few rules to the bookstore, which means that during this period, the bookstore will be completely closed and no one can see or enter here. Then he waved away his excess phone and began to think about which world to go to. He felt that his strength was still very low, making him feel insecure, and he needed to improve his combat power by 1 billion points. Now he has superhuman power, low, possessing immense strength, a strong and hard body, and outstanding melee effects, unlimited magic, low. Level, can give him tremendous destructive power, while speaking with ease, low. Level, is like a panacea, which can solve many things, but a strong ghost cannot do anything about it. So the world he is going to next needs to make up for this flaw. Fong Ming thought for a moment and realized that Taoism can make up for this flaw, but in a world where Taoism is powerful, ghosts and monsters are strong, and he dare not go. In a world where Taoism is weak, he looks down on it. After pondering for a long time, a spiritual light flashed through, and Jiang Jigang's martial arts could barely make up for this deficiency. With this thought, several suitable worlds suddenly appeared in his heart. After a second of contemplation, Fong Ming had a plan in mind. 1. Go to the world of Kung Fu and find an old beggar to obtain martial arts secrets. The martial arts in that world are very easy to learn, even a child like Xing can learn them. Although this child has the qualifications of an unparalleled expert, he doesn't think that the super brain and superhuman body will be inferior to Xing's qualifications. It's really not enough. If it's a big deal, he can casually use Xing's qualifications for a while. 2. Go to the world of modern Tathagata to obtain expired De Huan Dan and give yourself 30 years of internal power. 3. Go to Laugh in the Jianghu and use a nail file to desensitize, which is a divine medicine that can instantly amplify internal power by 1,000 times. These 3 worlds will definitely make his strength much stronger than it is now. Don't delay, set off immediately. Kung Fu world in the evening, the sky was blood red, as if hinting at something happening. In a dark alley, Fong Ming's figure gradually emerged. Not far away, hundreds of people wearing black suits gathered in a circle with axes from the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, surrounding a group of people inside. Bang bang bang. A burst of gunshots rang out, leaving only a gorgeous woman in an embroidered qipao among the group, and several corpses lying on the ground with tragic deaths. Big brother, please let me go. The gorgeous woman looked at the man with blood on his face in front of her, her face showing fear and her voice trembling slightly. Chen half opened his eyes and gasped for breath as he comforted the woman. Don't be foolish, sister. In law. I won't kill women. You go. Upon hearing these words, the gorgeous woman felt a slight relief in her heart. A pair of pitiful and beautiful eyes looked at Chen Gu, with a hint of gratitude in her tone. Thank you, big brother. As he spoke, he slowly turned around, his soul still in shock. And Chen, who was behind her, greeted the younger brother next to her, took the gun from his hand, aimed it at the woman, and suddenly fired a shot. Bang! The woman was grateful in her heart that she had escaped a disaster when she was suddenly shot through the abdomen from behind. She couldn't help but let out a painful cry and flew out a few meters away, falling to the ground motionless. Chen was not moved by this scene at all, and even twisted his dance moves a few times before throwing the gun in his hand to the second in command next to him. The wealthy second in command was well prepared and calmly took the gun, then turned to look at the police station and shouted inside. The police have come out to wash the floor. Ignoring any response inside, he immediately turned around and left. After all the members of the Axe gang left, Fong Ming walked out of the alley with an inexplicable expression in his eyes. In broad daylight, killing people on the street in front of the police station not only fails, but also allows the police to come out and take care of the aftermath. This is the reality of this era. Chapter 9. Sexy Xing, Online Ransom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That night, Fong Ming, who had just arrived, casually found an empty mansion to stay overnight. In the early morning, as soon as it was dawn, there were already cries of selling outside. Ha! Fong Ming slowly opened his eyes, stretched lazily and yawned. After getting up, he briefly washed up and walked, changed into a black suit, and went down to the first floor. Wait until we go down to the pig cage fortress to find Xing. He knows where Xing will appear. Now, let's get a few younger brothers out first, and there will be a fight for them. Scattering beans into soldiers. As soon as the words fell, an invisible force appeared, and 30 masses of air were squeezed into human form. Then, a purple magic flowed towards their bodies, enveloping their entire bodies and forming a hard armor. After everything was completed, they slowly descended, and as soon as they landed, they suddenly opened their eyes and knelt down towards Fong Ming. Fong Ming looked at their purplish appearance and smiled in silence. It's not an exaggeration to say that they are purple potato spirits. He shook his head helplessly, waved his palm, and made some modifications to their appearance. Their purple bodies gradually faded, while presenting a yellowish skin texture, and their armor also changed towards black suits. Not bad. Fong Ming nodded, his mouth curved upwards, and he was very satisfied with his work. Suddenly, he paused in his heart, as if he had remembered something. I saw him create 30 pairs of black sunglasses for them all to wear. At a glance, 30 strong men over 2 meters tall, dressed in black suits and black sunglasses, stood in front of him, exuding a suppressed aura. Little ones, let's go. Fong Ming waved his hand and walked out of the room, followed by 30 strong men neatly behind him, exuding a look of not being a good person. The pedestrians on the roadside saw it and immediately showed fear on their faces. They quickly avoided it for fear of provoking them. After Fong Ming came out, he casually beckoned a yellow carriage towards the roadside. The selected coachman's face turned pale, and he was sweating profusely, feeling extremely frightened. However, due to dozens of tough men behind Fong Ming, he gritted his teeth and quickly pulled the carriage to Fong Ming, his voice trembling slightly as he said. Big brother, where are you going? Don't be afraid, I don't kill anyone. Let's go to the pig cage city fortress. Fong Ming glanced at the coachman and said his destination. Alright, big brother, you sit still. Upon hearing Fong Ming's words, the coachman felt relieved and immediately exerted force on his legs, pulling the yellow carriage towards the pig cage fortress. Zulongkang village. Oh, so you're blackmailing me, said the half-exposed, expressionless soprano. You have discovered all of this. Xing looked at the expressionless Zai Pao with a surprised expression on his face, and immediately turned his head to shout at Axe help boss, Fizi Kong. Big brother. No response. Xing pushed Fizi Tsong and called out again, Big brother. Fizaishong was pushed a few times, his head couldn't help but tilt back, while making a snoring sound. Xing's face looked a bit awkward, but fortunately, after years of wandering in the martial arts world, he had thick skin. Faced with this situation, he still had full confidence and pointed to the sleeping fat child Song, with a slightly exaggerated tone. Oh, you're a dead man. My big brother chops people when he wakes up. Wow, you see he's about to wake up, right away. I'm not afraid. Upon hearing these words, Sauce Fried remained expressionless and had no inner turmoil. At the same time, he said solemnly. Even if you kill one me, there are still millions of me. At this moment, people outside seemed to notice the commotion caused by the barbershop and gathered around here. Xing Yuguang glanced at them and noticed them. He felt a little anxious in his heart. He pushed away the soy sauce and walked out, pretending to be calm and boldly shouting at them. The bird that stands out. The axe helps the big brother take a nap inside. Who is not afraid of death? Take a step forward. Everyone stepped forward and took a step. Xing's face was a bit awkward, he didn't even give a step, so he had no choice but to spread his hands and shout loudly, using his voice to give himself some confidence. Oh, that's just not negotiable. Okay, according to the rules of the martial arts world, it's a 1.on.1 competition. It's just 1.on.1, no one wants to foul. As he spoke, he looked around and pointed at a middle-aged woman with a smile on her face, arrogantly saying, "The ant with the onion, come out." Seeing her obediently walking out, Xing was overjoyed in his heart. He thought she was easy to bully, so he questioned the smiling ant, "Why are you with such a fierce expression? You think you can beat me?" Xing pointed to his belly with a hint of disdain on his face and said, "I'll let you punch me, hit me." Puff. I saw Auntie punching me, and Xing immediately spat out blood, his face painful. After wiping off the blood from the corner of his mouth, he looked at Auntie with a smile in front of him in shock, and asked in a weak tone, "What did Auntie do for you?" The ant answered honestly, "I am a farmer." Upon hearing this, Xing was slightly stunned. Although his mouth was full of blood and he was beaten to death with a punch, his tone remained firm and he said without hesitation, "Cultivate the land well, you go back to the field." "Something's wrong." Auntie scolded him softly and returned to the crowd. Xing was immediately dissatisfied when he saw his aunt scolding him. He wanted to become a member of the Axe Gang, and how could he be looked down upon? No matter how much blood she had beaten him before, he shouted directly. "Do something wrong, even talk back, you. It's not that you have a problem. I've already checked you out at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Speaking, he also raised his fist and posed as if he wanted to hit someone. But Xing also knew that Auntie was not easy to mess with, and his words were just words. However, he glanced around in the crowd. Suddenly, he noticed a dwarf and couldn't help but brighten his eyes. He blurted out, "That dwarf. 5 feet and half an inch away, that's you. Admit being short, stand firm when beaten, come out." The dwarf glanced left and right, and when he saw Xing staring at him, he realized that the dwarf was talking about him. He stood up in confusion and walked out of the crowd. Just as he was about to step forward, Xing stopped him. And Xing looked at the dwarf, who was over 2 meters tall in front of him, and the corners of his eyes trembled slightly. Fortunately, his psychological quality was good, so he adjusted and said seriously, "Oh, I look down on those dishonest people the most in my life. Sit down." Then he picked another muscular old man, Xing, who had a very good B score, decisively admitted and asked him to go back. Unable to even pick 3 people, Xing felt a bit anxious at this moment. If he couldn't intimidate them, he and Familiarity might not be able to get out of here. At this moment, a child came into view, and Xing was overjoyed. "It's impossible to defeat him now, right? Little ghost, I've been holding on to you for a long time, come out." Xing was very proud, his tone was very tugging, waving at the child. I saw the child walking out of the crowd, with obvious and strong muscles, like a dazzling sunlight piercing into Xing's eyes. "Hey, it's okay, it's big enough, it's big enough." Xing stopped him with both hands, feeling a bit overwhelmed, and said to everyone, "Hey, there's no one who looks like a human, it's just that you're not up to it yourself. Today's duel has been cancelled." Chapter 10. Conflict in the Pig Cage Fortress. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xing turned around and planned to go in and wake up Familiarity to run together, but was stopped by Sauce Blaster and the landlady. "He extorted me," said the sauce exploded next to the landlady, pointing to Xing. The landlady hung a cigarette in her mouth and looked at Xing with a contemptuous expression. Xing looked at the landlady in front of him and asked, "Oh, fat lady, it's you who's in charge, isn't it?" The landlady ignored him and took a slipper from her foot, slapping Xing's face fiercely. Pop. Xing was a bit overwhelmed by the heavy slippers and couldn't help but block his face with his hands. Just as he was about to speak, he was hit by the landlady's slippers again, making a crisp sound. Xing retreated in pain, but unexpectedly, the landlady refused to let him go and immediately chased after him, continuously hitting him on the head. Having been beaten up all along, Xing finally couldn't help but shout loudly, pointing at the landlady and scolding angrily. "You have the guts, I'm called a person." The landlady looked at him disdainfully and said without hesitation, "You have a dead mouse in your waist, pretending to be a hunter. I'll see who you call." After Xing finished speaking harshly, he ran to the side of a bonfire and lit a red firecracker pulled out of his arms. Then, he fiercely said to the landlady, "A cloud-piercing arrow, thousands of soldiers and horses come to meet." After speaking, he threw the artillery behind him. Bang! When Xing arrived, he didn't forget to speak harshly and walked out while speaking. "Wait until you die, don't leave, by a coffin." At this moment, Xing suddenly felt a wave of malice coming from behind. Turning around, he saw the axe, whose hat had been blown out, slowly walking out of the second master's house, followed by a dozen or so young men. The second in command wiped off the black and gray on his face, and looked at Xing with cold eyes, like a venomous snake hidden in the dark. He asked with a gloomy expression in his mouth, "Who threw the firecracker?" Xing's heart couldn't help but jump, but in an instant, he stabilized his mind and frowned to conceal his inner panic. Xing walked up to him and saw the two axes tattooed on the chest of the second leader, as well as his younger brother holding an axe behind him. He immediately thought of the axe gang. I saw a flash of inspiration in his mind, and he thought of a way to break the situation. He calmly said to the second leader, "My own person, big brother." The landlady nearby frowned and stared at Xing and the leader of the group. I saw Xing not knowing what he had said to the second in charge. The second in charge, with a displeased expression, led his younger brother to the landlady. A sense of unease arose in the hearts of the onlookers of the pig cage fortress. As if she hadn't seen it, the landlady turned her head and scolded the people behind her. "Why do you have so much to do? It's raining, hurry home and collect your clothes." The second in command, with a gloomy expression on his face, saw that the landlady didn't take him seriously. He felt angry and pointed at the landlady, shouting, "Fat lady." Unexpectedly, the landlady ignored him and ran back to the room with her feet like a wind and fire wheel. She opened and closed the door, and the bed cover was completed in one go, leaving a flurry of chickens and dogs outside. Below, the axe gang stared at the scene in front of them, their faces shocked. It was hard to imagine how such a fat woman could run so fast. But they quickly regained their senses and looked at the people in the pig cage fortress with a gloomy expression. Although the fat woman had run away, there were still people here. And the sauce fryer standing at the forefront was not afraid at all, even asking the second in charge in front of him, "Do you also want to extort me?" "I'm not afraid." The second in command looked at him with a puzzled expression upon hearing these words. Where did that silly kid come from? He's really not afraid of death. Dare to provoke him, axe helper second leader. Is he too old to lift the axe? Or are you drifting? Ah. The second in command pulled out the axe hanging from his waist, walked up to the front of the soy sauce explosion, leaned over and listened, as if asking him, "What are you talking about?" Sauce Explosion looked at the sharp axe in the hands of the second master, and although his face was constantly sweating, he was not afraid of anything. As soon as the upright sauce exploded, the second leader waved his axe and fiercely attacked the sauce exploded. Shwa! In the midst of this electric light and fire, a black shadow flashed in everyone's eyes, and the second in command instantly flew backwards into a large iron bucket more than 10 meters away. The axe gang turned their heads and stared blankly at the still shaking iron bucket, feeling a bit confused for a moment. When they realized it, they all gathered around and walked forward. Everyone looked at the second-in-command lying motionless in the iron bucket, like a dead dog, and felt a panic in their hearts. Is he dead? But upon closer inspection, the second in charge in the bucket was still breathing, and his nervous face suddenly relaxed. The second in command had an incredulous expression on his face and asked his younger brother stiffly, "What's going on? Have you seen it?" The little brothers didn't respond, the enemy's movements were too fast, and they didn't see it either. When the younger brother came out like the second in command, his face tightened and he suddenly shouted loudly, "Don't move. Cut it off, call someone, call someone." Beep. In response, the young man beside him took out a handheld signal flare from his arms and pulled it hard. The signal flare inside instantly rose into the sky, revealing the image of an axe after exploding in the sky. Bang! In an instant, there was a faint tremble on the ground, and hundreds of Axe Gang horses gathered towards the Pig Cage City Fortress, capturing all the people and carrying them to the open space downstairs from the book garden www.zhaozhuiyuan.com. Chen glanced at the second in charge foaming at the mouth of the barrel, gave a cold smile, and then turned his head to look at the people in the Pig Cage City Fortress. A hint of murderous intent flashed in his cold eyes, his gaze slightly indicating to his younger brother. The younger brother on the side nodded, turned his head and looked at the people lying on the ground with a fierce smile. He walked up and grabbed a middle-aged woman, lifting her to the middle of the open space. He took a bucket of kerosene from the side, while the woman held her son in her arms in fear and watched helplessly as the bucket of kerosene poured onto them. Who did it? Chen asked impatiently to the people in the Pig Cage Fortress. There was silence and no one responded. I'll count 3 times. Chen's face showed indifference as he opened the lighter in his hand and a flame burst out. 1, 2. The relevant departments handle affairs, and idle people should avoid leaving. At this moment, a strong and powerful voice echoed from all around the pigsty fortress. Who? Chen Go looked around with a cold expression, his tone carrying a hint of anger. What little thing has popped up in that small place, dare to dig the ground on the land of the Axe Gang, and eat the bear heart leopard gallbladder? The Axe Gang kept turning their heads to look at each other, trying to find the source of the sound and then chop him to death. Harmony between heaven and man. The landlady lying in bed and the landlady lying downstairs widened their eyes when they heard the sound, and a message flashed through their minds. At this moment, dozens of big men wearing black suits and black sunglasses walked into the entrance of the Pig Cage City Fortress, all with cold and stern faces, powerful and extraordinary momentum. When the black-clad man stopped, a path was opened on both sides, revealing Fong Ming standing at the back. Me.